Hello and welcome back for Season 2, Episode 14 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week we kicked off with the details of Aaron Rodgers' contract with the Steelers. I have had a few people pinch me and checked me to make sure it was real. Indeed it was. Then it was the first longer sort of strength sports segment I've put on. The International Powerlifting Federation, or IPF, was in the middle of their World Championships and had some really poor media coverage. They had their audio going out constantly, the video was choppy, and it was a microcosm of the larger issues that have held back strength sports from ever really hitting their stride. And we also dropped in some fantasy rankings. That was about the top 5 rookies I like in fantasy. Of course, the Raiders' Ashton Genty being number 1. And the things I'm thinking about and watching this week are things like Shohei Ohtani getting back on the mound, the Rafael Devers trade, NFL players' propensity to drive really, really fast, and maybe, possibly, depending on when I can record, the NBA Finals wrap-up. Shall we? I don't know if I can go wrong going in any order. I will probably, now that I'm thinking about it, have to wait for the Finals wrap-up because Game 6 will not have ended until real late Thursday night. I like to record Thursday afternoons when I can, as I am now. I'm thinking Rafael Devers then. Let's do that. I covered Devers' initial tantrum about the Red Sox signing Alex Bregman to play third base. That was Devers' spot for 8+ years, during which time he has been an incredibly poor defender. In fact, by almost every measure, the worst third baseman in the entire major leagues in that span, especially among those who had played as many games and innings as he had. He was worst in defensive runs saved at third base, and yet he has been one of the most productive hitters across the league also during that entire time. He's gotten MVP votes in 5 different years. The team says Bregman is going to be the everyday third baseman, and they really did not waver on that. I credit the front office. Devers becomes a full-time designated hitter and then refuses to make a move to first base, even when their starting first baseman Tristan Casas is lost for the year with a ruptured patellar tendon. All around, it was a strange situation to refuse to play anything besides DH. It's sort of like, so you were so in love with playing third, and then they tell you you're not going to play third, you wouldn't want to stick in the field at all? I don't know. I often think, gosh, doesn't a full-time DH get a little bit bored, no matter how good of a hitter they are? I don't know. I digress on that. The most ironic part of it all is Devers is raking. He's on pace for career highs in home runs, RBIs, on-base percentage. He leads the entire major leagues in walks. I didn't believe this at first. I read that and I thought, okay, no, it's got to be Aaron Judge or, maybe it's Ohtani or somebody, Cal Raleigh hitting all those home runs with the Mariners. No, it is Rafael Devers right now with about 57 walks, roughly, at time of recording. So let's comb through this and see if we can figure out why Rafael Devers was traded to the San Francisco Giants for a bag of peanuts. There was a great meme going around to explain the haul that the Red Sox got back. It basically had the Red Sox offering Devers as a trade piece. The Giants say, hey, we'll give you 4 players. And the Red Sox respond, any particular players? And they come back with 4 of them. And that's really how it feels. These 4 guys are 2 right-handers, Jordan Hicks and Jose Bayo. They'll probably be solely bullpen guys. A lefty starter, Kyle Harrison, and an outfield prospect that just got called up from high A to double A, James Tibbs. So he's quite a while from ever cracking the majors. A household name among those, there is not one. I'm admittedly more of a casual when it comes to most non-Tigers players, but I do know that much. Most people are scratching their heads. Devers is only 28 years old, which should be and appears to be his exact peak and physical prime. That could last another, 5-6 years, but he is under contract for 10 whole years with the Giants now inheriting most of that. Boston gets to unload over $250 million of this deal, but they also lose their best bat by leaps and bounds. Among all their qualified hitters, Boston that is, Devers led the team in really every stat that matters. Boston sat within a couple of games of 500 for the whole season, and although the Yankees are on top of the AL East, as they have been pretty much all year long too, Boston's only 5 games back. That's not a dramatic gap at all by this point in the year. The talk on the internet is, why would you ever punt on a season this early before the All-Star break? And the clear consensus is that the rift with the front office was just too much. I don't know. The hilarity of it all is that Devers comes right out and says the moment he gets to San Francisco, he will play wherever they need him. He's only a couple games in, so there's nothing much to say on how the numbers will play out, except that if he kept his current pace for the whole year, then it would probably become quite a fleece. Big Papi David Ortiz is one of the all-time great Red Sox, of course, and now a special assistant with the front office. He said recently on an interview that he texted Devers a number of times trying to get him to come to his senses, and hey, there's a massive hole at first base right now, kind of thing. The team president, Sam Kennedy, described it best, though, saying it was pretty clear that we could not, quote, find alignment with Devers. We had a different vision for him going forward than he had, and we couldn't get there. Really nice way to put it, too. That's definitely one that got approved by the PR person. Of course, the logical question people are going to throw out is, what is your vision for the rest of the club moving forward? Are you going to sell off anyone else at the deadline, especially if you stay a 500 team? Are you going to not shop for big names again if there's any sort of character concern? And is winning baseball games your number one priority, or is it anything else? Funniest part of all is after the trade, you know what came up on the Red Sox schedule less than a week later? A 6th-game West Coast road trip beginning with the San Francisco Giants. If Devers tears them up with the Giants, that is going to get airtime for weeks. I'm super excited about that. As somebody that truly has no dog in the fight, I will still have out my popcorn for that series. They're West Coast night games, so I might have to record them, but there's no way something interesting isn't going to happen in that series. Moral of the story is apparently that you get what you get, but if you throw a fit, you might like it, or something like that. And a few days after the Rafael Devers trade came down, the MLB got some much better news. On Monday night, facing the Padres, reigning NL MVP and noted unicorn Shohei Ohtani got back out on the mound for the first time since 2023. He had Tommy John surgery in the offseason in 23 before he signed the biggest contract in the history of sports with the Dodgers. LA was in desperate need of pitching help, probably worse than any other team in the majors. They have 14 pitchers as of today on the IL. I had to reread and recheck that a few times. Not 14 players, but 14 pitchers. Notably, there's Blake Snell, who's won a couple of Cy Youngs, Tyler Glasnow, and the Japanese rookie Roki Sasaki, all missing from their starting rotation right now. They can't completely fill all of the holes in-house, but it's a big shot in the arm to have even one more body to run out there. Ohtani is now able to start the game in both halves of the first inning with absolute magic, and everything he did during that first game on the mound reminded us of why a player might actually be worth $700 million. I was fortunate enough to get to watch a little bit of this game, but only after Ohtani had already come out. I think I tuned in like the 5th inning. And because it's Shohei Ohtani, though, the film is everywhere. He threw 28 pitches and only lasted 1 inning. I'm sure people that paid whatever the insane, unbelievable ticket prices were, they must have felt some type of way about that. But if I had a talent like Ohtani under my control, if I'm managing him, I think I would have done the same thing. Work him back as slowly as possible. Ideally, try and find some kind of, you would think, 6-man rotation the rest of the year probably to limit his number of starts. In fact, even as just a pure opener, he might be real effective. If you want to just have him go, let's say you stretch him a tad longer than the normal openers and say, 50 to 70 pitch range, plan on him throwing 3 to 4 innings every 4-5 days. I don't know. There's a ton that you could play with. There's a lot of cool stuff that he offers you. It's way easier said than done because it's just not how baseball's ever been managed before, but with those 14 pitchers on the IL, it's really worth trying. One thing a lot of people were excited about from the outing was his sinker, touching 100.2 miles an hour. Dave Roberts, their manager, he laughed and he sort of grumbled about it post-game, like, I'd rather maybe he stayed around 96, 97, but we all love the radar gun. We take that to be a pretty good proxy of a guy's health and his conditioning, even his overall performance. It was super promising that he also had another good offensive game, although he's known to do that on days where he's the starting pitcher. In that Monday night game, Ohtani went 2 of 4 with a double, single, a walk, and 3 RBI. And that's he can do that every single day when he shows up to the ballpark, right? The pitch mix was 10 sweepers, 9 four-seam fastballs, 8 sinkers, and 1 splitter. I'd be really surprised if that continues to hold up as he makes his next start, because he's known to be the fastball splitter guy, really, and especially using the splitter as a strikeout pitch or with runners on base to induce the double play balls. He gave up hits to Fernando Tatis and Luis Arias with a wild pitch mixed in. Manny Machado drove in a run with a sac fly. It's the Padres lineup, right? We know how loaded they are, how deep they are. Ohtani's final line would be on those 28 pitches, 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, no strikeouts, nothing more to speak of. His arm looks as good as ever, and for the first time in a long time, you won't want to miss a Nationals game. Ohtani's going to make his next start on Sunday against the Nats, and we'll likely see the same opener-type role with a softer pitch cap. Hopefully, 40, 45, even 50 pitches over a couple of innings. Super exciting for anyone that likes really good and really unique baseball. I'll have to look on Sunday and find out if that Nats game is going to be nationally televised. Next, the Cleveland Browns' 5th-round pick Shedeur Sanders has reportedly been in or near the driver's seat for most of training camp. We refer only to the starting quarterback job, because the great irony here is that he was pulled over this week for driving 101 in said driver's seat. There are tons of contributing authors on ESPN where I first read the story. I've always wondered who exactly writes for quote-unquote ESPN news services so I can credit them, but I will link the article in the description. It says that according to public court records, it was the second time in the month of June that he's been cited for speeding. The first time was 91 miles an hour in a 65, and the second was 101 in a 60. Would it be in bad taste to point out that he actually had a higher max velocity this week than Ohtani did? The article said the fine for the most recent ticket was $250, which is almost nothing at all to somebody who was as rich as Shedeur was before he ever got drafted with the NIL money and whatnot. It's not all about the money, though. It's about the organization and the quarterback curse that continues to infect every single one that the Browns bring in. The writing is on the wall that they are barreling towards another quarterback failure, and I really hope that's not the case. I've already mentioned the Browns' current quarterback room on the show and what an absolute state it's in. They're keeping Deshaun Watson on IR for some time as he recovers from the torn Achilles, and then there's the option of the PUP, the physically unable to perform list, at some point when the season gets real close. But Watson's been throwing privately with receivers. He's ditched his walking boot now for a month or more, and he would make the quarterback situation even more awkward, more confusing. No NFL team carries 5 quarterbacks. They just don't have the roster space. 3 quarterbacks is most likely. You can carry 2 or you can carry 4. Those are both viable options. It depends on what else your team looks like. I truly think it is going to be 41-year-old Joe Flacco at the top and Shedeur probably as the backup. But that's only assuming that Watson is never healthy enough to play. If he is, well, you either have to start him, I would think, or at minimum make him the backup and get him some reps, rotate him in. Flacco is probably heading toward his Max Scherzer moment, where his body just gives out and the door could be wide open if Flacco gets hurt. I don't think it would be Kenny Pickett. Maybe Dylan Gabriel ends up really nice. Maybe he distributes it better. Maybe he's the most accurate one. Goes back to kind of what we saw at Oregon. I don't know. This would be the perfect time for Shedeur to work harder than he ever has in his life, to be more silent, more head down than he ever has in his life. Now, no one was expecting the son of Deion Sanders to be soft-spoken, right? But there are only 32 starting NFL quarterbacks, and there's a fairly clear path for you to become one as a rookie. Learn some accountability. Learn that you're not above anybody else on the team. Obviously, learn that you're not above the law, and you'll be moving a lot closer to possibly saving the Browns franchise and shedding that label as just another Cleveland Browns quarterback. All right, and finally, am I the only one that never considered that teams could trade draft picks during the NBA Finals? The Pacers have pulled off another one of what I'm going to assume is an NBA first. Admittedly, I should have looked into this a little bit deeper. They traded the draft rights for New Zealander and former G Leaguer Mojave King, along with their first-round pick from this year, for a 2026 first-round pick from the Pelicans. It was originally their pick to begin with. Let's flesh this all out, right? They had traded this 2026 first-rounder to Toronto in order to bring in Pascal Siakam. Seems like that one worked out quite well for Indy. Then the Raptors traded that same pick to the Pelicans in the Brandon Ingram trade from, I believe, the trade deadline last year. I know that made it into an episode as a side note. That must have been what it was. And now the Pacers don't really feel that they need to have a first-rounder this year after already making the finals and seeing their current roster hanging very well with the Thunder. I guess when I hear the term trade deadline, I assume that means the only roster moves that you can make after that point would be things like releasing or signing street free agents or things like that. But now, as I think about it again, it does make total sense why draft picks would be an exemption. So the player involved here, Mojave King, is currently still playing in New Zealand. He was originally drafted by the Lakers in 2023, ended up as one of those immediate trade pieces on draft night to the Pacers, but he hasn't played an NBA game yet. It's largely because of injuries, like so many other good prospects, but when he did get a shot with Indy's G League team, the Mad Ants, he just didn't really capitalize on it. There's chatter that this could end up being a steal for the Pelicans. We're going to be in for a fun offseason, do you know what I mean? If you just kind of zoom back and forget even that the finals are happening right now, whatever else is going to go on across the landscape, I'm ready. The Pelicans could be some really big players in it, considering they're going to have the opportunity, should they choose, to move Zion Williamson. Even if they don't, they now have the 7th and the 23rd picks in the draft for this year, and there's obviously a ton they could choose to do. Could they maybe target one of the huge names that we think are going to be available? Let's say a Kevin Durant, Giannis, Ja Morant. Would maybe the Warriors want to trade Jimmy Butler? I don't know. All of these guys come to mind. There's also Trae Young with the Hawks. There's Lauri Markkanen with the Jazz. Jaylen Brown with the Celtics. The point is, big stars are definitely on the trade block right now, and certain teams are going to look a lot different by the time late October comes around. Shout out to the Pacers for having some forethought and for playing for their present and their future all at once during the finals. And another week down. Thanks for coming back week after week, or if you're relatively new here, happy to have you. I'll note that I am at least generally aware that the Florida Panthers repeated as Stanley Cup champions in an absolute beatdown, and I believe in that clinching Game 6, Sam Reinhart had 4 goals. I just simply did not have the time to watch pretty much any hockey this year, between sticking with the weekly uploads and my master's program and all this powerlifting training and all the other games and sports and players and athletes, everything that I've been trying to keep straight. Still, congratulations to the Panthers. It's super tough to repeat in any sport ever. This Saturday will also be my first strongman competition on the mic. We're going to be live streaming off of my gym's YouTube channel, so I'll link that in the description as well. I've been an MC for a strongman competition before, but this will be a first for me. The most fun and chaotic thing about the sport is that it has pretty much no standardized weights or implements or events. It can sort of be whatever the meet director wants it to be. We're going to have some things that I can't really explain, and in fact, I haven't even seen yet. A car squat, a truck pull, an axle tire clean and press. There's just so much going on, but it's all cool, and it's metal, and it sounds scary. Should be a really good time. Come hang out with us and enjoy it. Check out all of my socials as well. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, @The Voice of Tanner. X, just Voice of Tanner. YouTube, the whole thing spelled out with spaces. Connect on LinkedIn if you're a real one. Leave a like, comment, and share. Catch you next week. This has been Season 2, Episode 14 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.